try and rattle through these questions so nobody's left out. One question: what is the difference in evolution and adaptation? Evolution is summarized as descent with modification. Biologists, okay, that's what evolution is. Adaptation is applied to the fit of an organism within an ecosystem. The assumption is that if an organism is adapted, some sort of pattern has been modified to make it appropriate, then that's an evolved thing. You could equally talk about adaptation as a designed function which God has created for that. So I think they're two different concepts, but some people would link them. Could you comment on the different variants of theistic evolution, from one extreme that God just set it going to God directed it step by step? Well, evolution doesn't need God, right? It's a theory that's gained credence precisely because it doesn't need miraculous explanation. It is a naturalistic theory for the origin. It doesn't need God. So theistic evolutionists are up against it because the evolutionists say to them, why are you accepting evolution? It doesn't need God, It doesn't need God to direct it step by step. So some of them are less accepted than others. I think these are Catholic, Church of England type theistic evolution is that God created the initial conditions and then it just all happened. But I read more than I want to know about these people and what they say. The questioner says, those who put forward God-directed theistic evolution seem more dangerous as their arguments could sound more plausible. And they can sound plausible, and they can be very alarming for people. But just bear this in mind. Christadelphian didn't invent theistic evolution, all right? The Catholics invented theistic evolution a long time ago because they accepted evolution, then they had to readjust, right? And they were the first to do it, I think, orthodoxy adapted itself. It was an evolutionary process of adaptation to But their issue isn't our issue. Their issue is where to put the immortal soul. All right? That's their issue. They don't mind what sort of death Adam had, naturally speaking. It's his immortal soul they're worried about. So they, in a sense, they don't care about some of the things that we care about, because at some point in evolution, God introduced immortal souls into the picture, and it's what happens to them they're interested in. Though they don't say so much in the evangelical literature, but that's behind the scenes, right? So the death they're talking about is, what happens to that? So I think that we have to be very careful in going to these sources and saying we can learn from them. How should those considering a university choose their subjects? Very carefully. I mean, you might say, don't do biology. I'm not going to say that. I think if you can go in with your eyes open, that's one thing. I don't think it's a great subject to do, given the way the secularism and the rhetoric and the political correctness now has imposed a straitjacket on people able to ask questions. I mean, there was a time when teachers could teach biology and say, evolutionists say, or the multiple choice answers could be answered honestly, according to the theory of evolution, how old is the Earth, and you could have answered it because you learned what evolutionists say. But now you might be asked, how old is the Earth? And if you thought it was young, you get a wrong answer. So the question isn't how old is the Earth according to the theory of evolution. That's taken as gospel. And so the world has changed, and there will be conscience issues much more in, I think the Military Services Committee has been looking at conscience issues in the workplace much more in that regard. So I think if you go into university, you should be an eye to what job you're going to do. I think science subjects are better than non-science subjects, because the nonsense that you have to learn for the non-science subjects is at least as dangerous. And if you're doing English literature, I don't know how you cope. And if you do psychology, what nonsense you're absorbing. Show my bias.
Accountancy, is that right?
What?
Accountancy.
Accountants are fantastic. Economics, Mark, economics. All do economics, okay? Chemistry, physics, maths, I think you're going to be free of much evolutionary stuff there. Medical sciences, not bad. Engineering, excellent. You know, so and you can use this. And then James 1:17 says, no variableness. How do we understand the characteristic of God in which there is no variableness, yet there must have been occurrences of discontinuities? So I think James 1 verse 17 isn't talking about no variableness in what God does. I think it's no variableness in his character. So I think it's mixing up two different ideas. That's all the questions I have.